Discover the incredible moment a millionaire took a recycling collector to an ex's engagement party, and it changed everything. Daniel rubbed the sleep from his eyes as he stepped into the crisp morning air, the sun barely peeking over the horizon. Today wasn't just another day. It was his chance to step back into the world he had once envisioned for himself. But instead of a lecture hall bustling with ideas, he would be collecting refuse, bottles, cans, remnants of lives lived and enjoyed. He reflected bitterly on the ideals he had chased, abandoning academia during the worst moment of his life. When the bottom fell out, only the honest labor seemed to call his name. He was proud, yes, but was it enough? It felt like a mockery, the university degree hanging on the wall, decorated but unused, whispering reminders of all he could have been. His dreams felt like a foggy memory, faded yet haunting. Every can he picked up was a reminder of potential lost. But today, it was different. Alex, a former classmate turned tech millionaire, had called him out of the blue, asking Daniel to be his +1 for an engagement party for an ex-girlfriend. Why? Daniel wondered fiercely, a mixture of excitement and dread swirling within him. As he suited up in his work clothes, he could almost hear the laughter and popping champagne from the mansion that awaited. He hesitated, doubts clawing at his insides. What if Alex's friends were like they had been in college? What if they judged him? Would he be an outsider, trapped in a gold-plated cage, suffocating under memories of snide remarks and laughter? He gritted his teeth, vacillating between wanting to refuse and a stubborn determination to prove something, to himself if nothing else. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Hours later, Daniel found himself standing before the extravaganza of the mansion. The glittering chandeliers reflected not just the gorgeous light, but every ounce of his insecurities. He mingled with well-dressed guests discussing investments, cars, and vacations, the topics slipping through his grasp like sand through fingers. Anxiety tightened around his chest. He felt like an intruder. Laughter echoed, detachingly hollow, reminding him of the distance between them. Yet Alex stayed by his side, breaking through the pretentious shell with genuine conversation, but the strain tightened with every passing moment. Then came the moment that made the blood drain from Daniel's face. An old schoolmate, clad in designer attire, forced the room into silence. "Why don't we trade places, eh, Daniel? I'll take your truck and you can take my office." The mocking laughter that followed was piercing, pulling at the wounds he thought had healed. The world around them blurred, his internal conflict raged. Should he let it slide again, remain the humble worker he prided himself on being? Or should he confront the venomous talk, risking further ridicule? The uncertainty gripped him tighter than his own work gloves ever could. Time stood still, faced with the choice that felt heavier than any load he carried on his truck. The scrutiny of eyes bore into him, the stakes rising higher than he could have anticipated. Would he remain the quiet collector, shrinking into the corners of their grand lives, or would he fight back, shattering the boxes that others had so easily placed him in? Daniel's surging thoughts tangled with fear, a quiet strength building deep inside him. The air grew thick as he inhaled, poised on the knife's edge of courage and fear, uncertainties bubbling up behind a facade that felt paper-thin. Daniel's heart raced. His body, paralyzed by a whirlwind of self-doubt and anger, propelled him into a surreal stillness. But in that hazardous pause, tremors of resolve began to unfurl within him. The laughter still reverberated through the room, its mockery a stark backdrop against his internal tumult. Could he allow their derision to define him once more? The layers of his past began to peel back, revealing a flicker of resilience buried under years of self-doubt. He straightened his posture, the fabric of his work shirt brushing against his skin as he took a bold step forward, meeting the smirking gaze of the former classmate. The collective breath of the crowd hung heavily in the air, anticipating a retort that seemed almost impossible for him to utter. Yet, Daniel could see beyond the designer attire and rehearsed charm. He saw a man fishing for validation through another's shame. "What makes you think your office had anything to do with success?" The words escaped his mouth with more force than he intended, but they were out, hanging in the air like a charged storm cloud. A ripple of surprise ran through the crowd, and for a fleeting moment Daniel felt liberated. Eyes widened, murmurs floated through the group, oscillating between astonishment and intrigue. The classmates' smile faltered, and the laughter around them diminished. "You're just a garbage collector now," he retorted, his bravado crumbling under Daniel's unexpected confrontation. With every word exchanged, Daniel felt the grip of insecurity loosen just a fraction. "I collect what others throw away. I might know more about value than you think," Daniel shot back, his voice steadying, realizing with each syllable he spoke that he was reclaiming a part of himself long buried. Encouraged by the rush of clarity and courage, he continued, "You're flaunting wealth like it defines you, but it's just your costume. It doesn't make you more than anyone else in this room. You think my truck is all I have? You're mistaken. I've learned the real worth of things." The tension shifted palpably. He heard murmurs of admiration ripple through. Before he realized it, he felt a warm hand on his shoulder. Alex stood beside him, a look of respect crossing his formerly sympathetic features. In that moment, Daniel saw recognition in Alex's eyes, as if he could feel the invisible weight lifted from Daniel's shoulders. Encouragement flared in his chest. He was not merely an outsider today. As laughter began to reemerge, it flowed differently this time. It lacked the cold edge of mockery. Instead, a semblance of camaraderie took its place, blossoming out of the unexpected stand Daniel had taken. He could feel the tide shifting within him, confidence blossoming like a flower in spring. With newfound energy, he mingled more freely, conversations transforming from superficial small talk to deep discussions. Stories flowed from others about their struggles and aspirations, and for the first time, Daniel found common ground rather than a chasm. The pretensions around him dissolved into patterns of possibility, and while he still held the weight of his past, he started to see a potential future glittering ahead. Yet deep down, he knew this was just the beginning. While he felt invigorated, questions loomed just beyond the celebratory surface. How far could this journey of self-discovery truly take him? Would he have the resolve to pursue his aspirations beyond the expectations formulated by others? The night wore on, and as people began to weave in and out of conversation, Daniel quietly scanned the room. He sparked small talks, but a deeper need arose within him. He yearned to explore these connections further, but time slipped away like grains of sand. Contemplating his next move, a familiar face caught his eye from across the room, a leader in the tech world he had admired for years. There was a spark of hope, a potential shift in destiny. Daniel took a deep breath, clenched his fists with purpose, and made his way across the room. All the lessons learned and conflicts faced twisted together to push him forward into the unknown. What awaited him as he approached that glowing figure? It could mean new opportunities or unearth another layer of fear altogether. Daniel could only wonder, but he was done backing down from the challenge. Daniel weaved through the throng, each step filled with a resolve that felt foreign yet exhilarating. With every few strides, he recalled the mockery he'd just deflected. A new energy coursed through him. It was as if the weight of others' expectations had lifted, allowing him to breathe for the first time. Yet doubt lingered at the edges of his thoughts like a distant storm cloud, creeping back in as he drew closer to the esteemed figure in the room. That leader was a tech entrepreneur, known for innovation that often left the industry buzzing. Daniel had followed his journey closely, often envisioning what his life would look like beyond the mundane cycle of collecting and sorting refuse. Yet, as he approached, self-doubt threatened to leak back in, taunting him with thoughts of inadequacy. "What gives me the right to even speak to him?" the whispered question haunted Daniel. Would being a garbage collector diminish whatever wisdom he might offer? As he neared, Daniel noticed the leader surrounded by an entourage of professionals, each more polished than the next. They laughed and exchanged barbs, cocooned in the warmth of familiarity. But grounding himself in the moment, Daniel sought out a different narrative. He reminded himself that while their paths diverged, they were both shaped by unique experiences that colored their perspectives. With a steadying breath, he pushed away the unfounded insecurities. He had value too, perhaps even more than wealth could define. It wasn't his job title that mattered, but the wisdom that lurked beneath those discarded items he handled each day. Wouldn't that make him uniquely equipped to understand value in a world obsessed with appearances? Finally drawing closer, Daniel felt a jolt of adrenaline as the entrepreneur turned, his smile radiant and engaging. The moment hung between them like a nimbus, electric with possibility. "Daniel," the entrepreneur greeted, his voice smooth and welcoming. The crowd momentarily hushed, eyes flitting between the two men. Yes," Daniel stammered initially, but quickly found his footing. "I've admired your work for years. You've turned tech upside down. I'm curious, what inspires your innovation?" The question hung in the air. Others turned their attention to him, the interest palpable. He now stood not as a spectator but a participant in a conversation that had the potential to expand his mind and networks. The entrepreneur's expression shifted to one of surprise, quickly morphing into appreciation. "I find value in everyday problems. Solutions arise from the overlooked," the entrepreneur replied, nodding slightly, words weaving a tapestry of intimacy and understanding. Daniel felt a spark of connection ignite. Inspired by the brilliance of the entrepreneur's words, he trod deeper into conversation, driven by curiosity and unheard narratives. "Working in waste management, I often see how people discard not just items, but the stories attached to them," Daniel replied, surprising himself with his honesty. "I wonder, how do you propose we shift the narrative of what's deemed valuable?" The leader leaned forward, intrigued. What a profound perspective! We often overlook the stories that give items their worth. Businesses thrive on how we reposition the narrative. Perhaps you've already begun that journey by seeing value where others don't. The realization washed over Daniel vividly. The synergy of their dialogue sparked in him ideas he had long neglected. Was it possible that his role, once perceived as trivial, could morph into a compelling conduit for innovation and civic responsibility? Excitement lit a fire within him. A flicker of an idea began to form, one that could harness both his experiences in waste management and the innovative spirit he admired. And as he exchanged thoughts and perspectives with the entrepreneur, bold aspirations surged in Daniel's mind. He envisioned a project that merged technology with waste management, aiming not just to recycle but to educate on value and sustainability. But just as clarity dawned, another emotion pierced through: fear. What if he failed? What if they dismissed him again? But Daniel squared his shoulders. The conversation glimmered with potential he had refrained from seeing before. With each shared thought, Daniel's vision expanded, igniting pathways he once deemed unreachable. A profound question echoed within him. How far could he take this spark before it became a flame? He hardly had time to ponder, though, as the entrepreneur turned to him with a glint of interest. "Why not pursue this idea further? I can connect you with some resources." The suggestion hung in the charged air, saturated with opportunity and intimidation. Daniel's heart raced, torn between the exhilarating leap toward potential and the looming safety of retreat. What awaited him if he chose the unknown? With his future rewriting itself in front of him, the moment crackled with uncertainty. But before he could answer, a voice from behind startled him, piercing the aura of burgeoning success. "Hey, Daniel, you promised you'd catch up with us." It was Alex, bursting with energy, as if pulling him from a reverie, pulling him back toward the familiarity he had only just dared to step away from. Daniel's heart stuttered. Would he let this chance slip away? Caught between newfound opportunities and the pull of his old life, Daniel stood at the cusp of a decision. Would he take the leap or retreat to the comfort of the known? Daniel's breath caught in his throat as Alex's enthusiasm shattered the electric moment of possibility he had been savoring. The warmth of Alex's presence felt grounding, yet suffocating, pulling him back into the life he had been eager to transcend. His fingers twitched as he grappled with the weight of his choices. "I'll be right there," he called to Alex, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. But inside, a tempest brewed. The invitation extended by the entrepreneur felt monumental, a bridge leading to a realm of new beginnings. Yet Alex's arrival threatened to uproot all discovery. The entrepreneur's gaze lingered on Daniel, anticipation hanging palpably in the silence. Daniel sensed the leader's genuine interest, his offer lingering like the cool breeze before a storm. That single moment of connection, of being seen for who he could become, rippled through Daniel, igniting a desperate need to seize it. He faced the entrepreneur. "I appreciate the offer," he began slowly, feeling the fire of determination surge within him. "Everything you said resonates deeply. I have some ideas that could really innovate the way we think about waste." The words flowed more freely now. An uncharacteristic boldness surged forward, fueled by the adrenaline of this nascent connection. "I'd love to hear them," the entrepreneur replied, an encouraging smile spreading across his face. "Let's connect later." But just as Daniel felt the excitement of potential bloom, Alex interjected, confusion etched on his features. "Aren't you supposed to join us? We were just about to grab drinks and catch up." Daniel's heart sank at the implication of familiar obligations weighing down on him. Alex's exclamations reminded him of the comfort of his current life, often predictable, always safe. Yet this was the very life he sought to transcend. A quiet voice rose within him, reminding him that every moment spent clinging to the familiar silenced his aspirations. "I can't," he heard himself say, the words surprisingly firm. "I want to explore this further. It's important to me." His own courage surprised him, and he searched Alex's response for understanding, but a flicker of disappointment crossed his friend's face before he could hide it. "Come on, Daniel," Alex replied, a tone of pleading emerging. "We can't just keep leaving people behind. We've got plans together." Daniel's heart sank at the implication of familiar obligations weighing down on him. Alex's exclamations reminded him of the comfort of his current life, often predictable, always safe. Yet this was the very life he sought to transcend. A quiet voice rose within him, reminding him that every moment spent clinging to the familiar silenced his aspirations. "I can't," he heard himself say, the words surprisingly firm. "I want to explore this further. It's important to me." His own courage surprised him, and he searched Alex's response for understanding, but a flicker of disappointment crossed his friend's face before he could hide it. "Come on, Daniel," Alex replied, a tone of pleading emerging. "We can't just keep leaving people behind. We've got plans together." The tension intensified. The analogy of an anchor weighing him down became clear. Daniel turned back to the entrepreneur, who watched the exchange with unwavering composure. Moving forward felt daunting, yet retreating into the embrace of his past felt like relinquishing the very essence of who he could become. He paused, sifting through a mix of insecurity and longing. I know this may sound rash, but I want to take a risk. I see a future where what I do every day has meaning beyond what it appears." The subtle robustness of his newfound determination pushed him through the emotional fog. The entrepreneur's eyes sparkled with intrigue. "That's a bold perspective, Daniel. Life truly begins at the end of your comfort zone, doesn't it?" As he spoke, Daniel recognized the truth in those words. Each step would demand more courage, more vulnerability, and every decision made today would shape the legacy he would toil to build. With that realization, Daniel felt the grip of fear loosen ever so slightly. But then, the irritation of Alex's insistence turned inward, creating a swell of guilt for choosing his aspirations over friendship. A moral dilemma began to form. Was it worth risking his connection with Alex, or would this leap propel him toward purpose? Daniel glanced between Alex's imploring eyes and the entrepreneur's encouraging gaze, two worlds colliding. He felt the weight of his choice hovering over him, pregnant with potential but rife with consequence. "Daniel," Alex pressed, desperation in his voice, "you don't have to do this. We've always had each other's backs." The bonds of his past tightened, but an urgency surged beneath, an insistence that his story was evolving. Would fear of losing a friendship rob him of the chance to forge a greater purpose? But something within him refused to relent. "I need to explore this path. We can reconnect later, I promise." In that moment, as he faced both men, he understood that with each brave decision, he chipped away at the beliefs that had tethered him for too long. Turning away from the familiar felt like jumping into a chasm, yet it also radiated the promise of discovering untapped potential. As he took a step toward the entrepreneur, the flicker of hope ignited into fervor within him. But just then, a distant voice echoed painfully, a reminder of what could be lost. The growing tension hung in the air, thick with uncertainty. Was he a man ready to abandon the comfort of old ties for the blinding potential of new horizons? With determination twisting within, Daniel resolved to step boldly into a life waiting to be reshaped. As the meeting point loomed ahead, a new challenge threatened to unravel everything he held dear. Would he leave more than a friendship behind as he pursued transformation? The moment held its breath, crackling with anticipation as he embarked on the unknown. The duality of fear and hope roaring louder than ever, urging him to choose. The air crackled around Daniel as he approached the entrepreneur, each step carrying the weight of both anticipation and trepidation. The glow of possibility flickered in his mind like a street lamp in a fog, illuminating the path while casting dark shadows behind him. He had taken a bold leap, and now the daunting unknown loomed ahead. "Let's discuss your ideas," the entrepreneur said, motioning toward a quiet corner, adorned with lush greenery. The sleek backdrop of the modern office blended oddly with Daniel's turbulent thoughts, and the contrast unsettled him. As they sat across from each other, the world beyond faded away, leaving only the shivering energy of this new opportunity. "I've noticed our approach to waste management lacks innovation," Daniel began, heart pounding with each word. "Most companies see it purely as a cost and not as a resource. I believe we could change that narrative by integrating technology that not only streamlines the process, but also empowers communities. Imagine a system that encourages recycling through incentives, that educates and engages rather than simply punishes." The entrepreneur leaned forward, his eyes alight with interest. "That's an interesting angle. Let's unpack that. What specific methods do you envision?" Fueled by the encouragement, Daniel's thoughts flowed freely. First, he navigated through the technical aspects of his vision, then dove deeper into the implications it could have for the environment and society. This was more than just a professional endeavor. It was a calling simmering beneath the surface of his everyday life. Yet, even as he spoke, the guilt from leaving Alex behind gnawed at him, an unwelcome specter haunting his edges. Had he sealed their friendship in the process? With every animated word, he felt both the thrill of becoming someone new and the painful tether of what he might have cast aside. Your ideas are transformative, the entrepreneur remarked as Daniel concluded, a broad smile spreading across his face. But let's also discuss implementation. You'll need a roadmap and, frankly, some backing. I can help with that. A rush of exhilaration washed over Daniel. You'd be willing to invest in this? Absolutely, but it's going to require more than passion. I need to see how you're going to make this happen. Are you ready to put in the work? The urgency in the entrepreneur's voice struck Daniel deeply. He had tasted freedom, and the prospect of creating something significant eclipsed his fears. Yet in the back of his mind, Alex's silhouette loomed like a faded photograph, making it hard not to feel torn. "What I need is a team," he replied. The realization washed over him with clarity. Friends, supporters, people who believe in this as much as I do. I'm not sure how to balance both aspirations yet. The entrepreneur raised an eyebrow, eyes penetrating. That's the first hurdle you must overcome. Success isn't just about your vision. It's also reliant on your ability to inspire others to join you. Are you prepared to lead? Daniel's insides clenched at the concept of leadership. The idea of cultivating a team was daunting, but the urge to activate change burned bright within him. He envisioned gathering a dynamic group, each member bringing unique skills, allowing their collective power to challenge the status quo. "I want to be that leader," he proclaimed, summoning a sense of clarity amidst the chaos. "But I also need to make sure I don't lose those who are important to me along the way." The entrepreneur nodded approvingly. Balancing personal and professional relationships can be tricky, but true leadership involves guiding others while remaining true to yourself. As they delved further into the weeds of the project's mechanics, Daniel felt a newfound responsibility take root within. Each small step into the unknown teased out latent abilities he had tucked away, igniting a fire of determination previously clouded with self-doubt. But he knew the real test lay not just in executing his ideas flawlessly, but also managing the people he'd need to rely on. Would he alienate Alex forever? Or could he find a way to incorporate his past while forging a new way forward? As the conversation wound down, Daniel's mind spun with options, the entrepreneur's words resting heavily in the air between them. "I'll think about your offer," the entrepreneur concluded, pricing out the concept of partnership in tangible terms. Daniel nodded, excitement tempered by the unknown challenges that lay ahead. He was at a precipice, and it felt heady. The thrill of new beginnings mingled with the uncertainty of old endings. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a quick reminder of reality pressing upon him. The world outside waited for him to navigate it. Would he have the fortitude to face both the professional turmoil ahead and the personal stakes that threatened to unravel? As he stepped out of the lush confines, Daniel felt the atmosphere charged with promise, yet a sense of foreboding lingered just beyond the horizon. Each twist of fate awaited just as eagerly, ready to either fortify his path or challenge his resolve in a way that would define him forever. What would happen when those past associations collided with the future he envisioned? The uncertainty loomed larger than ever, demanding he stepped further into his journey of growth and risk. The sun hung low in the sky as Daniel stepped outside, the warmth contrasting sharply with the turmoil swirling in his mind. Ideas danced vividly before him, yet the memory of his conversation with the entrepreneur lingered, echoing deep within his thoughts. He needed a team. The prospect of leadership heightened his anxiety. The whispers of doubt tightened around him like a noose. On the drive back, he mentally mapped out the people he could approach. Who believed in him as he began to believe in himself? Each name surfaced, accompanied by a flash of insight or history. There was Sarah, the tech-savvy friend who often made light of their college projects, turning dull ideas into engaging, feasible solutions. Maybe she would embrace the challenge. But there was a catch. Her commitment to her own corner of the tech world was strong. He questioned if she would see his vision as passionately as he did. Then there was Jude, his friend who had a knack for marketing, always able to effortlessly communicate value. If anyone could frame his recycling initiative as an innovative cultural movement appealing to the masses, it was him. Yet Daniel hesitated. Jude thrived in structured environments. Could he handle the chaotic nature of startup work? What if the risks of Daniel's entrepreneurial climb disrupt their friendship instead? While he grappled with these thoughts, the car crawled through traffic, the sounds of the city a stark reminder of his current life. He turned on the radio, the chatter of a familiar song drudging up memories of carefree times with Alex, his best friend. McGraw's catchy lyrics floated through the air, a timely intrusion of nostalgia followed by regret. The guilt returned, burrowing deep into his chest. Could he continue to draw from that well of history, or would it become a poison in his pursuit? Arriving home, Daniel felt the weight of his own expectations settle in. He stood in front of his desk, cluttered with old textbooks and crumpled papers, feeling so far away from the ambitious entrepreneur he aspired to be. With purpose, he began drafting an email to Sarah. The words seemed to flow with more ease than he anticipated, but underneath, he was questioning the outcome of this overture. What if she declined? Or worse yet, what if his attempt to inspire collaboration fell flat? He hesitated before hitting send, questioning if this was the right path. Breathing in deeply, he finally pressed the button. "All right, one down," he muttered, feeling a thread of relief that quickly unraveled into self-doubt again. What if his leadership faltered before it even began? Could he communicate his passion in a way that would resonate with others? As the evening wore on and darkness enveloped the room, another thought pierced through his uncertainty. What if his childhood friends, those who had watched him grow, would not understand the change he was embarking upon? Would they be dismissive? Daniel often found comfort in the familiar, but this time he sensed that the familiar might shackle him. The prospect of reaching out to Alex crossed his mind, a potential bridge to a friend who once encouraged him to chase his dreams. But the looming fear of rejection gripped him. Would he be met with resentment for his sudden rush towards ambition while leaving their long-shared dreams behind? A decision loomed, a bold choice to either face his past or let it linger like an open wound. Could he forge a path that included Alex and the opportunity waiting in the wings? Or would he have to sever that bond to pursue the unknown? The clock ticked ominously as he wrestled with his thoughts. He needed clarity. The allure of success and innovation pulsed fiercely in his chest, yet the impact on his relationships threatened to unravel all he'd worked for. With one eye on his phone, Daniel's resolve began solidifying, one step at a time. He would reach out to the friends he'd thought about, but he also had to face Alex. This confrontation would either tether him to the past or propel him towards his future. The moment of truth was approaching. He could feel it gnawing at him. Was he ready to trade comfort for ambition? The heavier the questions became, the more Daniel understood that every progression invited a confrontation of his own design as he stood on the precipice of his new journey. Would he find the courage to make the first move? Daniel lingered in the dim light of his cluttered room, the buzz of uncertainty mixing with the rhythmic ticking of the clock. His phone felt weighty in his hand, a tangible representation of the decision he had been avoiding. Each passing second coaxed him closer to a crossroad, one path leading toward the familiar comforts of his past with Alex, the other promising the thrilling, albeit daunting, embrace of entrepreneurship. Taking a deep breath, he opened a new message, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. The familiar ache in his chest reminded him of their shared dreams, but clarity started to pierce through the fog. If he didn't reach out, would he risk losing not only a chance at his vision, but also a piece of himself? As he contemplated his words, a quiet conviction began to shape his strategy. This wouldn't be a casual catch-up text. It had to evoke the depth of his commitment and the seriousness of his ambition. "Hey, Alex," he began typing, each keystroke releasing quiet hope intertwined with fear. "I've been thinking about us lately, and I believe we need to talk." Just as he was about to summarize his aspirations, doubt crept back in. Would Alex see this as a betrayal? Maybe he was overestimating their friendship. Could he articulate a shift that felt so monumental yet fragile? The fear of judgment threatened to strangle his budding ambition. But amid the confusion, a powerful realization emerged. He needed to articulate his vision not only for Alex's understanding, but also for his own clarity. He wasn't just asking for acceptance of his new direction, he was inviting Alex along the journey. "Actually, I've started on something that I'm passionate about, a recycling initiative. I believe it could really make a difference. I want to share more about it and get your thoughts," he typed, heart racing with every letter. After typing, he paused, questioning if he should add more. Should he think about their history together? Would pulling on those threads soften his approach or divert from his purpose? After a moment's hesitation, he hit send. A flood of relief washed over him, immediately followed by a swell of anxiety. The waiting game commenced. Would Alex respond positively or retreat into confusion? The chances felt like a gamble, sending a pang of adrenaline coursing through his veins. Activity solution achieved, Daniel turned his attention to the other potential recruits on his mental list. Sarah had not replied yet, but he couldn't afford to remain passive. Encouraged by his own small victory, he quickly composed another message to Jude. "Hey man, I'd love to catch up soon. I've got an idea that I think you'd be perfect for, and I need your marketing skills. Let's grab a drink tomorrow." The concept of building a team began to solidify in his mind. The more he envisioned it, the more he felt the internal flame grow stronger, igniting a belief that his goals were not insurmountable. He envisioned brainstorming sessions with Sarah, strategizing with Jude, and potential late nights filled with creativity and enthusiasm. But would turning friends into collaborators alter the dynamic of friendships he held dear? His phone buzzed, breaking his reverie. He glanced down. It was a reply from Alex. "Sure, let's talk. When are you free?" Daniel's heart raced. He hadn't expected such an immediate acknowledgement. Friend or not, this was a pivotal moment. Each word would carry weight far beyond casual conversation. The stakes had never felt higher, intertwining ambition with the threads of their shared past. As he stared at the screen, reality sunk in. The chance to voice his aspirations lay at his fingertips, yet uncertainty still loomed over him. What if he miscalculated the significance of his vision in Alex's eyes? What if he could no longer return to the easy camaraderie they once shared? Determination surged through him once more. He would meet Alex and convey everything, no more holding back. He was ready to integrate his dreams with his life, not separate them. Stepping away from his desk, Daniel paced the room, his mind racing with the possibilities of how this could unfold. The sensation of vulnerability wrestled with the thrill of potential. The meeting was only days away, but it loomed larger than any deadline he had faced. Would he find the strength to convey the urgency of his newfound aspirations without fracturing their friendship? Each heartbeat echoed in his chest as he weighed the potential outcomes, grappling with the consequences of stepping into his own future. The potential of embracing both his ambitions and his past created a magnetism that was impossible to ignore. He needed to prepare, treading carefully, balancing honor with ambition, and hoping their bond would withstand the weight of change. It was now or never. What revelation awaited him in that much-anticipated conversation? The days leading up to his meeting with Alex crawled by, each hour feeling like an eternity. Daniel swayed between anticipation and trepidation, his mind continually replaying all the possible scenarios. What might Alex say? Would he be supportive, or would Daniel be met with skepticism? He found himself creating a mental script. "You know how passionate I've always been about the environment," he rehearsed, whispering to himself in the quiet corners of his mind. This is an opportunity not just for me, but for us too." But the inconsistencies in his tone haunted him. Could he sound genuine while explaining something that felt so alien to their previous discussions? He needed to ground himself, to ensure he understood the purpose behind his venture. Clarity washed over him like a wave. This wasn't just about starting a recycling initiative. It was about championing a cause larger than himself. It became clear that this was also a test of his own beliefs. Did he truly believe in the potential for change? Could he persuade others to share in that vision? Daniel spent his idle moments diving into research, reading about successful environmentally conscious startups, analyzing what made them resonate with their audiences. He wrote down core principles and strategies, sorting them into thoughtful notes. The more he learned, the more he began to understand potential pitfalls and avenues for success. It felt exhilarating, this newfound agency. He was shaping not only an initiative, but also himself. In the evenings, he started jotting down ideas for a business plan. There was something invigorating about piecing together logistics, marketing strategies, and potential partnerships. Each note penned was a testament to his growing expertise. Yet underneath this newfound knowledge lay a nagging worry. Was he capable of transforming this concept into a reality? He attempted to channel his uncertainty into motivation. Each sleepless night became a crucible for testing his resolve. The fear of failure tugged at his mind, whispering doubts and reminding him of the comfort he could retreat into if this all fell apart. But every time he shooed those thoughts away, it turned into motivation. He would not let fear dictate his path. When the day finally arrived, the air was thick with tension. As Daniel drove to the cafe where they planned to meet, his heart hammered relentlessly against his ribs. He pulled into a parking space, took a moment to breathe in deeply, and collected his thoughts. Inside, he spied Alex sitting at a corner table, a familiar glimmer of curiosity resting in his eyes. They exchanged a tentative smile as Daniel approached, the weight of years of friendship hanging palpably between them. The dialogue began like many before, easy yet laced with an undercurrent of urgency. Small talk gave way to the pivotal moment he'd anticipated. "Daniel, it's been a while," Alex observed, his eyebrows knitting together slightly, but there was warmth there too. "What do you want to talk about?" Gathering his courage in a deep breath, Daniel plunged into his reasoning with clarity and intent. The words flowed more easily than he'd imagined, each declaration linking back to the fundamental value he felt behind his mission. He mirrored the passion he had found in researching, and he could see Alex's initial confusion evolve into measured interest. But then, unexpectedly, Alex probed. "What if it doesn't work out? Have you thought about what that might mean for you?" The question landed with heavy precision, echoing in Daniel's mind. He had envisioned success and impact, but never truly confronted the reality of failure. The very thought of it had been the specter he'd sought to ignore until now. Daniel hesitated, weighed down by the crux of his own ambitions. Suddenly, the conversation felt unfocused, the pursuit of dreams teetering atop a fragile framework. "I don't know," he confessed quietly, a ripple of vulnerability crackling between them. "What if I fall short? And what if, in doing this, I jeopardize everything?" The piercing silence thickened, forcing Daniel to explore the depths of his fear, realizing it stemmed not just from the project itself, but from the potential rift in their friendship. Time ticked away as a wall of thought built up, carrying with it an urgent realization. For every step forward he took, he risked unearthing destinies he wasn't prepared to confront. As Alex mulled over Daniel's response, Daniel braced for an answer that might redefine them both. "You know, maybe it's time to embrace the risk." With that simple acknowledgement, Daniel's path forward seemed fraught with even more uncertainty. The dialogue had transformed, the stakes raised, not just for the dream, but for the soul of their friendship. Now, more than ever, Daniel understood he needed to reckon with the past in order to sculpt a future. What awaited him on the precipice of this new, daunting journey, while Achilles' heel remained unresolved? Would he uncover the strength to navigate both his ambitions and the unpredictable tides of friendship ahead? Daniel's heart raced as he left the cafe, his breath hitching at the blend of exhilaration and anxiety thrumming through him. He had finally broached the subject that had lain heavy on his mind for weeks. Yet the connectedness he felt with Alex mingled with a gnawing trepidation. Their friendship felt precarious, hanging on the thin thread of shared aspirations and unfolding truths. The drive home was a blur of thoughts whirling through his head. Alex's probing query echoed incessantly. What if it doesn't work out? It felt like a specter hovering behind him, reminding him of every doubt he had wrestled with. But then came Alex's words, "Maybe it's time to embrace the risk." They resonated, lighting a spark deep within. Could he hold on to that ember even as he faced uncertainties? At home, the familiar walls seemed to constrict around him, amplifying the weight of the discussions he had just navigated. The business plan he had crafted during late evenings appeared sprawled out on the table, a chaotic blend of aspirations and numbers. He rifled through the pages, searching for clarity where chaos reigned. Would this proposal ring true with investors? Would his concept hold value in the real world? Daniel sank into an armchair, the cushion swallowing him whole. His fingers absently traced the spine of a notebook, its pages filled with metaphorical sketches of a dream that felt more real now than it had ever been. Yet he couldn't shake his nagging discomfort. Was he really prepared to risk everything, a career, a friendship, for a cause he barely understood in the broader spectrum? As he wrestled with self-doubt, Daniel's phone buzzed unexpectedly. It was a text from Alex. "Let's meet again soon. I want to help you with your plan." A spark of hope surged through Daniel at the unexpected offer. The reassurance that Alex was willing to invest his time felt comforting, yet it also nudged him to confront the reality of his fears. What about his insecurities? The risk he was taking was monumental. It transcended just the project. It pressed into his identity. He had always been the sidekick, not the main character. If this project faltered, would he still be the friend Alex knew, or would he become something entirely different? The following days were an elaborate dance of planning and anxiety. Each detail of the initiative slowly crystallized, yet every moment was punctuated by thoughts of potential failure. As he pored over his business model, he could feel the glue of friendships fraying with every potential contingency he envisioned. What if investors laughed in his face? What if he wasted Alex's time? What if this initiative never truly took flight? Sifting through possible partnerships, Daniel found himself reflecting on missed opportunities, people he hadn't spoken to in years. Tapping back into his old network felt terrifying but necessary. He chose to reach out to a friend from college who had delved into environmental law. With trembling fingers, he typed a message, inviting her to discuss sustainable practices in business. As he pressed send, a wave of uncertainty washed over him. What justified his need to connect with her when he still felt adrift himself? Still, it was a step forward. Each interaction became a small victory against the clamor of self-doubt. Daniel drafted an agenda for their meeting, hoping to harness her expertise. Perhaps she would guide him as he stepped onto this uncharted path. The night before their meeting hovered heavy with a mix of hope and anxiety. Armed with notes and questions, Daniel felt slightly more prepared. Yet the question lingered. Would he convey his dreams effectively? And what price might friendship pay as he grappled with this newfound drive? As he muzzled his doubts and set an intention for the meeting, it hit him. For the first time in years, he felt the exhilarating pulse of purpose. The real risk lay not only in what his initiative could achieve, but also in what it could reveal about himself. Tomorrow loomed, a new chapter waiting to unfold. In the wake of possibility, Daniel couldn't shake the sensation that he was on the cusp of discovering not just a path to professional success, but a deeper understanding of himself. Just as he grasped the significance of that realization, another thought struck. What if, in pursuing this path, his connections would evolve in unexpected ways? With the promise of tomorrow echoing, one question loomed larger. Emerging from this process, who would Daniel become? The sun rose over the city, illuminating Daniel's workspace, where papers filled with aspirations and plans lay strewn about. Today was not just another day. It was the day he would walk into a new chapter of his life. As he organized his materials, he could feel the electric anticipation sparking within him, an unmistakable sign that he had finally stepped into the role of a leader. Meeting Emma, the friend from college with expertise in environmental law, was nerve-wracking, but he was determined to bring his vision of the recycling initiative to fruition. The conversation flowed more naturally than he had anticipated, as they shared insights and reflections on sustainability and creating something meaningful. Emma's encouragement breathed confidence into Daniel. Her enthusiasm ignited the fire that had been simmering inside him since the engagement party. With every discussion about implementation strategies and community engagement, Daniel felt a shift. The once haunting specter of self-doubt began to dissipate, replaced by an unwavering sense of purpose. The proposal he was crafting was not merely an idea on paper. It represented a potential movement, a way to redefine how society perceived waste. After their productive meeting, Emma offered support not just in knowledge, but also in potential connections. "I believe in what you're doing, Daniel. We need people like you leading these conversations," she affirmed. Her validation felt like a warm embrace, reassuring him that success wasn't measured solely by traditional metrics of wealth. It was about impact and authenticity. Days turned into weeks, and the momentum he had built continued to accelerate. Daniel contacted Sarah and Jude, outlining specific roles in his project that would combine their unique talents with the vision he had laid out. Each new partnership strengthened his resolve, confirming that he could weave together his personal and professional ambitions. They met to brainstorm and refine the business model, each component taking shape like a mosaic of shared dreams, purpose, and creativity. Through all of this, Daniel stayed in close contact with Alex, inviting him to consult on marketing strategies as they began to form concrete plans for outreach. It was uncomfortable at times to navigate the evolution of their friendship, but with patience and transparency, they both learned to embrace their changing roles. Alex's insights helped shape the narrative around the initiative, giving it a voice that resonated with others. A breakthrough moment arrived when they received an invitation to pitch their proposal to a local venture capital group known for supporting sustainable ventures. Daniel's heart raced with exhilaration when he heard the news. This was a monumental step forward, but it also sent him spinning. He needed to refine every aspect of his plan into a polished presentation. As they prepared, Daniel leaned into every lesson learned from both his journey and the friendships he had built. He gathered data on environmental impact, crafted a compelling narrative, and emphasized the unique community aspect of their initiative. Together, they practiced pitching, which solidified Daniel's belief in his ideas and the unity of his team. On the day of the pitch, standing in front of the investors, Daniel felt a calm confidence that was foreign yet exhilarating. Gone were the whispers of inadequacy that once clouded his mind. Instead, he presented his vision with conviction and authenticity, highlighting not just the potential profit, but the importance of cultivating societal change. The investors listened intently, nodding in agreement at the synergy of his points. As he concluded, Daniel felt a wave of triumph wash over him. He had not only crafted an initiative grounded in sustainability, but had also embraced the role of a leader, someone capable of sparking transformation in others.
Weeks later, the venture capital group formally backed the recycling initiative. The tangible success hit him like a wave, but even more satisfying was the realization that his voice had resonated. It had been received with understanding and enthusiasm by those who could help amplify it. Recognizing the magnitude of this milestone, Daniel took a moment afterward, reflective and grateful. He marveled at how far he had come, from feeling like a discarded part of society to reinforcing his belief in his inherent value. Engaging deeply with friendships had fortified him, propelling his ambitions without sacrificing essential bonds along the way. Looking forward, he envisioned not just a recycling project, but a holistic approach to sustainability that could inspire others. His identity had shifted, rooted in purpose and reaffirmed through collaboration. With renewed focus, he prepared to expand his initiative, hoping to include educational programs that would establish community ownership over waste management. As he moved toward this next phase, Daniel felt a steady watching pride for himself and for his team. Each of them embraced their roles, embodying the spirit of change with unity and vigor. At that moment, he recognized the most significant personal achievement of all, the evolution of a young man who had once felt small into a resilient leader, forging a path not just for himself, but for a brighter future shared with others. He was ready for whatever came next, new challenges, opportunities for growth, and the friendships that would continue to enrich his journey. Daniel had conquered his internal conflicts and proven to himself that he was capable of achieving meaningful change, honoring his roots while embracing an exhilarating future. Now it's your turn to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.
Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.